What if the numbers the public sees are not the real story? What if the official defense budget, the one debated in public hearings, reported in headlines, and repeated in political speeches, is only the outer shell of a much deeper system of hidden spending, buried authorizations, classified compartments, and projects so sensitive that even most people inside government never see the full picture? Because when people talk about the Pentagon's secret budget, they are not just talking about accounting, they are talking about a shadow layer of power, one that may shape weapons, surveillance, intelligence, and military strategy far beyond what ordinary citizens are ever meant to understand. For decades, rumors about hidden Pentagon money have moved through the world of investigations, leaked documents, budget analysis, defense reporting, and conspiracy theory like a current beneath the surface. Some say it is simply the normal price of national security in a dangerous world. Others believe it is something far more unsettling. A financial architecture designed not just to protect secrets from foreign enemies, but to protect entire programs from public scrutiny, political inconvenience, and even meaningful oversight. And whenever files, memos, procurement traces, or budget anomalies appear in public view, the same question comes roaring back with new force. How much is really being spent? Who truly knows where it goes? And what exactly is being built behind the walls of secrecy? Before we go further, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and support the project if you enjoy serious investigations into mysteries, conspiracies, hidden systems, and the stories that challenge the official narrative. And I want you to comment below before the end of this video. Do you believe the Pentagon's secret budget mostly protects legitimate defense programs? Or do you think it also hides projects and operations the public would be shocked to discover? Stay with me, because once you start looking at how classified military spending actually works, the visible budget starts to look like only the beginning. To understand why this theory has such power, we need to start with something important. The idea of secret defense spending is not pure fantasy. Classified spending exists. Black budgets exist. Governments, especially major powers, have long protected parts of their military and intelligence spending under layers of secrecy. Certain research programs, surveillance systems, advanced weapons development, covert operations, and strategic capabilities are considered too sensitive to expose in full detail. So when people say the Pentagon has a secret budget, they are not inventing the concept from nothing. The real question is not whether secrecy exists. The real question is how far it goes. That distinction matters because it is exactly where the mystery begins. Most people assume secrecy works in a narrow way. A project is classified, a number is hidden, a report is restricted, and the system still functions under some deeper internal control. But critics of the Pentagon's hidden spending say the truth may be far more fragmented and far less transparent than the public imagines. In this view, secrecy does not merely protect projects from adversaries. It creates compartments so isolated that knowledge itself becomes divided, scattered across offices, contractors, programs, and authorizations in ways that make the full structure difficult to trace even from the inside. This is where the language of black budget becomes so important. In serious defense discussion, the black budget usually refers to classified funding streams supporting highly sensitive military or intelligence work. That can include advanced aircraft, cyber capabilities, stealth systems, reconnaissance platforms, special operations support, space-related technologies, and programs whose names or purposes never become fully public. On paper, this sounds understandable. A government may reasonably argue that broadcasting every detail of its most advanced capabilities would be reckless. But to skeptics, that explanation opens the door to something much larger. Once money enters a world built on secrecy, how easily can the public tell where legitimate protection ends and unchecked concealment begins? That question has grown sharper over the years because of repeated concerns about transparency, accountability, and audit complexity inside the broader defense system. When enormous institutions struggle to provide clean, easily understandable pictures of where money moved, distrust naturally grows, and in the case of the Pentagon, distrust grows even faster because the stakes are so high. The more complex the accounting appears, the easier it becomes for the public imagination to ask whether complexity is merely the side effect of scale, or whether it sometimes functions as a shield not only against enemies, but against visibility. Then there are the files, fragments, and paper trails that keep feeding the mystery. Not necessarily one dramatic leaked document that explains everything at once, but scattered indications that certain programs are buried under vague labels, masked within procurement structures, routed through obscure channels, or protected by access restrictions that reveal almost nothing to outsiders. This is how the theory survives, not through one final revelation, but through accumulation. A document that hints at a compartmentalized project, a budget pathway that seems unusually opaque, a contractor relationship that raises eyebrows, a reference to a program whose scope appears larger than its public description. For believers in the deeper theory, these are not isolated oddities. They are signs of a hidden architecture. According to this view, the visible budget is like the facade of a building, while the real machinery operates in layers behind it. Some claims focus on covert military research, others focus on surveillance, others point to weapons development so advanced that public disclosure would trigger major geopolitical shock. And then, of course, there are the most explosive theories of all, that buried funding channels may be tied to technologies or operations so controversial that normal democratic discussion would become almost impossible once they were exposed. This is where the story becomes truly provocative, because once a hidden budget system is accepted as real in principle, the imagination begins to ask what kinds of projects would require that level of protection. Is it simply stealth aircraft, missile defense, cyber warfare, and signals intelligence? Or does the secret budget extend into experimental systems the public would barely recognize? Hypersonic platforms, autonomous strike capabilities, exotic surveillance tools, deep space tracking, psychological influence research, underwater systems, continuity of government planning, compartmented projects nested inside other compartmented projects, until only a tiny circle understands the full purpose. A serious observer has to pause here and separate grounded possibility from pure speculation. There is a major difference between classified defense spending, which is a reality, and every dramatic theory attached to it, which is not automatically proven just because secrecy exists. But that is also why the Pentagon budget mystery remains so durable. It lives in the space where confirmed secrecy touches unconfirmed suspicion. The existence of hidden funding gives conspiracy theories oxygen, and each time public records, internal references, or fragmented files appear to expose another layer of obscurity, that oxygen turns into fire. Another reason the theory refuses to disappear is the role of private contractors. In the public mind, government secrecy is one thing, but secrecy spread across a network of defense firms, subcontractors, research partners, proprietary protections, and compartmented procurement relationships feels far more difficult to track. When taxpayer money moves into a maze of public and private entities under national security justification, the lines of visibility can become extremely thin. To supporters of the theory, this is one of the most important points of all, not because private industry automatically means wrongdoing, but because it can create distance between public money and public understanding. And once that distance exists, the darker questions begin. Could controversial programs be hidden behind harmless-seeming labels? Could budget language be broad enough to conceal work the public would never suspect? Could entire initiatives survive for years with only fragments visible outside classified circles? Could one office know the funding line, another know the technical objective, another control access, and no ordinary citizen ever see the full design? In a system built around compartmentalization, even oversight can become partial. And partial oversight is exactly where theories grow strongest. There is also the cultural dimension of this mystery. The Pentagon occupies a unique place in the American imagination. It is not just a building, it is a symbol of military power, secrecy, strategic planning, and the hidden machinery of the modern state. So when people hear the phrase secret Pentagon budget, they do not picture routine classified administration. They picture hangars no one can enter, research labs without names, missions without acknowledgement, technologies decades ahead of what the public has seen, and decisions being made in rooms where exposure is treated as a threat in itself, whether fair or exaggerated. That image gives the theory enormous emotional force. Some of the most persistent versions of the theory go even further. They argue that the real shock is not simply hidden spending, but hidden priorities. In other words, what if the public debate about defense focuses on visible conflicts and declared threats, while the most important money moves quietly toward programs that reshape the future in silence? That could mean surveillance dominance, artificial intelligence tied to battlefield autonomy, space-based systems, electronic warfare platforms, strategic tools designed not for conventional war alone, but for information control, deterrence through ambiguity, and capabilities that are meant to be felt before they are ever publicly recognized. And then there is the simplest, most unsettling question of all. If secrecy is necessary, who watches the secret keepers? That is the line that gives this entire subject its gravity. Democratic governments justify hidden spending on the grounds that some threats require silence. That argument has real force. But a serious society must also ask how secrecy is bounded. how power is checked, and how classified necessity avoids becoming a permanent excuse for financial opacity. Because once enormous sums move through a world the public cannot inspect clearly, trust becomes a central issue. And trust is exactly what conspiracy theories thrive on when institutions fail to explain themselves in ways people find convincing. This is why every document fragment, every procurement clue, every buried program reference, and every unusual budget trail attracts such attention. People are not only looking for waste, they are looking for meaning. They want to know whether hidden defense spending protects the nation in ways they can never fully see, or whether it also protects entire categories of activity from serious public accountability. That difference is everything. One is secrecy in service of security. The other is secrecy in service of insulation. At the center of the mystery is a paradox. The public knows enough to understand that classified spending exists, but not enough to feel confident about its limits. That creates a permanent psychological tension. Too much secrecy invites suspicion. Too much disclosure may endanger legitimate programs. Between those two poles lies a zone where doubt flourishes, and the Pentagon's secret budget lives exactly there, not fully hidden, not fully visible, but visible only in fragments, which makes every fragment feel more important than it might otherwise be. So what do the files really reveal? The strongest answer is not that they prove every sensational theory, it is that they reinforce a reality the public already sensed. There are layers of defense spending that operate under extraordinary protection, and the deeper those layers go, the more difficult it becomes for outsiders to understand the true scale, purpose, and reach of what is being funded. That alone is enough to shock many people. Not because it automatically confirms the wildest claims, but because it shows how easily the most consequential programs can exist at the edge of public awareness. And perhaps that is what makes this topic so powerful. The Pentagon's secret budget is not only a financial mystery, it is a mystery about power itself, about how modern states hide what they consider too important, too dangerous, or too sensitive to reveal, about how files can expose just enough to alarm the public without ever delivering complete clarity, and about how, in the absence of full visibility, official explanation and public suspicion begin to compete for control of the story. In the end, the real question may not be whether secret Pentagon spending exists. In some form, it clearly does. The real question is how much of the future is already being built inside those hidden channels, far away from ordinary debate, ordinary scrutiny, and ordinary understanding. Are these budgets mainly protecting necessary research, strategic deterrence, and national survival? Or do they also conceal projects so controversial, so advanced, or so politically explosive that the public is only allowed to glimpse them through leaked fragments and partial files? Now I want to hear your view. Do you believe the Pentagon's secret budget is mostly a legitimate shield for national security? Or do you think it hides programs and operations that would shock the public if fully exposed? Leave your theory in the comments, because this is one of those subjects where what is hidden may matter more than what is visible. And if you enjoy serious content about conspiracies, secret systems, hidden files, and the mysteries behind official power, like this video, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to support the project, because sometimes the most important story is not the one written in the open, but the one buried between the lines of a budget no one was meant to fully see.